We humans are quite complex creatures. We can be sympathetic to one another, but turn savage in a dime. Why is that? The brain. Or what even is the brain? How does it work? Not even Albert Einstein could explain us why we say the number 21 as the answer to 9 plus 10, or why loud obnoxious noise is funny. No one knows. But what we do know is the worrying decay of our society as the time ticks. By the turn of the 21st century, we have become dumber, undisciplined, and degenerate. Is there anything we can do to salvage this? Is this a lost cause? Or is there even a decay at all? I, Luke Triton, apprentice of the famous Professor Layton, is on the hunt to find the exact cause of our society's collapse. So join me on this whimsical and epic journey to unravel this puzzle.
You got it wrong. It's on this interesting and epic journey. Not whimsical, you retard.
Shut up. I read what's said on my paper. You were the one who wrote the script. Let me address the elephant in the room. What do I mean exactly by the decay of our society? Well, when I say our society, I'm referring to the country this documentary resides in and the worrying trends that have been happening. A recent poll questioning about how happy you feel showed that 69% of the population feel miserable. A police report of a 420% increase in crimes committed, an increase in food price, rising house prices, a 50% increase in insurance fraud, a 0.2% increase in political corruption, though it should be taken with a little pinch of salt, and the most damning one of all, no new album from Tally Hall since 2011. But who's the one who should be fixing all these? Is it the politician's job to address all these issues? I spoke with the Prime Minister, Ina, regarding the issue. Based on the polls, only 4.7% of the population is satisfied with the management of the country under your leadership. How do you plan on addressing that? Well, for one thing, polls don't matter much to me. If people didn't have any confidence on me, I wouldn't have been chosen during the election. Actually, you didn't win the election. It was Cutria Layton who won, but because she went missing, we had no choice but to have you as the Prime Minister. Well, an opportunity is an opportunity. She didn't show up? Too bad.
The election was stolen.
I talked with electing loser and, quite frankly, terrible private detective, Cutria Layton, to hear her thoughts on Ina's efforts as Prime Minister. Stolen?
Yes, stolen. I clearly won the election. And the fact that she can just take it away like that is absolutely unconstitutional. She clearly isn't up for the job. Just look at the crime statistics. You'd really think that people would choose a polygon lady over a private detective?
So, you're saying that you would have done a better job than her if you were elected.
Absolutely.
That's quite the usual cultural egotism.
Oh, don't be such an imbecile. You, as an apprentice, need to know that being a nitwit is not the answer to your puzzle. Didn't you learn anything of value with the professor?
Shut up! You star in one of the worst games in the franchise. Possibly the worst of all time. You have no right to be talking to me like that. One of the most god-awful video games I have ever played.
Excuse me, young man. Have some manners. Quite the apprentice you got there, Dad.
Also, I noticed that your voice is rather different than usual.
Oh, yes. The producers finally got the chance to find me a real voice actress to voice me. In fact, the first ever voice actress to be hired.
Oh, alright. Sorry, I thought you had a cold or something, because it sounded like it.
Can you quit with that attitude? You're supposed to be doing an interview with me, not another latent subreddit debate.
Whatever you say, junk food addict detective. So, you saw what was going on in the country, and you figure that the best way to fix the issue is to cut spending as much as you can, like it's some sort of challenge on who can cut the most as possible. Correct? You, young child, are correct. If we stop funding unneeded services, we'll get to save at most $20 a year. I just want to make it clear, I did not eat all those turons on the table. I did not. But has any of the plans put forward by Ina actually helped improve the many lives in the country?
When I heard that she was going to cut the sale of vegetables in order to cut government spending, I felt insulted.
I honestly support this decision. Vegetables can kiss my ass.
Ina's spending cuts have received rather mixed reactions from the general public. Let's be honest here. Most of your cuts for public transit, police, infrastructure, and development hasn't really given us the best results. What do you make up of this? Well, we shouldn't be put off by the statistics so early. You need to let it take its time. Eventually, it's going to be worth it. And how long is that going to be? Who knows? Indeed, in typical fashion, all box, but no action. It seems a rather common trope for politicians to show up to a shithole, say the most cliché things, and leave. But how about those who would like to get up and leave their shithole? Getting around the country certainly hasn't changed fashion. What is your biggest pet peeve when taking public transit?
People standing at the front of the bus when there are so much space at the back.
People not taking off their bloody backpacks.
People jumping the turnstiles. I mean, what other reason there is that the prices for tickets are getting expensive?
Indeed, for years, public transit has been left neglected by politicians, left to suck up the crumbs left occasionally on the dining table. But the situation has gone even worse when Ina's recent spending cut plans include a 68% cut in funding for public transit in the country. This was a massive blow for the sector as it was the only viable source of capital. Now, transit agencies are planning on cutting, reducing, and neglecting their services to keep themselves afloat. And what's in it for the population? The workers who help build our society. With inflation taking a bite out of the country, price of goods has skyrocketed to the point where a small, creamy Choco Cocoa double-shot infused cocoa beanie with caramelized iced latte from Starbucks costs about the same as an apartment in London. And the population isn't getting paid enough to afford to live. Is there a real problem here, or is it just skill issue? I talk with none other than the famous, overrated Professor Herschel Layton. So, you know well that with everything being so expensive, more and more people are getting into situations where their salaries aren't enough anymore. I always wonder, how did this happen in the first place? Well,
I'd say it's a bunch of different factors in the work culture that help simplify this. Now, everyone would blame inflation, and fair enough. Yes, indeed. As the country's currency is getting more and more worthless, we print more and more money. And more printing means an even more worthless currency. With that, prices increase, but people aren't getting paid enough to afford them. But it's actually more than that. For one, the average salary has increased over the decades as the standard of living increases. Companies would tend to avoid spending too much money on the salary of the workers. They would rather have someone from across the Pacific Ocean who would accept 20 cents an hour to make the product and ship those products back across the ocean. It's cheaper to do that than making them at home. Second, people are a lot more louder. Whenever something is not right in the workplace, they are not shy on voicing their concerns. Unions are also formed by the workers to protect the interests of the employees. It's one other reason why companies would rather move overseas where worker concerns aren't the thing.
Okay.
Honestly, good for those companies. Because I'm tired of these workers being so over-demanding. Like, shut up and do your job. You're nothing but a slave to ours. Do I care about how terrible your working conditions are? I think it's more of a skill issue.
Okay, let's not get too ahead of ourselves here, yeah? Interesting you mention about businesses not paying well to the employees. I hear countless stories of workers being essentially forced to rely on tips just to get a decent wage. And because of that, I also heard people being essentially forced to tip.
Oh, I know this very well. I also experienced the same thing. I was at a Starbucks one day, and I ordered a cup of water. When come time to pay, the terminal asked me if I would like to tip. Like any rational person, I clicked the no tip button. The cashier hit back and pointed to me at a sign stating a 20% minimum gratuity. So, I clicked on the no tip button while staring at her. There is no bloody way I'm tipping someone who all they'd done was take a cup, pour some water from the sink, and put a lid on it. It's ridiculous.
Why the hell did you order water at Starbucks? Anyway, would you say that unions contribute in part of how the work culture is at now?
Absolutely. Unions are a headache in our society. It enforces the idea of laziness. That if you aren't satisfied with what you signed up for, you disrupt the business by doing strikes until your unrealistic demands are met. Just lazy bastards.
Okay, Professor, no, you can't just be like this. You're making yourself like a complete moron. We can't have this on TV.
Well, the simple truth is that we wouldn't be in this situation if it wasn't for the increased salaries, unions, and overall changing attitude of the work culture. Things got done in a timely fashion 70 years ago because we didn't had such things. Now, we can't even dug a 2-meter tunnel without consultation from the public, consider workers' safety, environmental concerns, and have the project cost 10 times more to get it done. That's the hard reality. What else could be said?
Indeed, there was nothing else to say. So I shook hands with the professor, packed up all the equipment, and left. But that got me thinking. Has anyone contributed to the decline of our society? Why have you become more and more incompetent? I mean, 60 years ago, you would have never seen on the news about anyone eating laundry detergents, climbing a mountain of milk crates, or even stealing a vehicle and driving it around like a madman. If I was legally allowed to point at someone for this, it would be the internet. Now, it does sound cringe and what an old person would say, but first of all, shut up and let me explain. when have you started hearing these challenges? Certainly not 1993. And where have you seen these challenges? If it's anywhere other than social media, then you are a bloody liar. Because all of these are from the internet. For the first time ever, mankind is able to communicate between each other in just seconds, kilometers away and right in our fingertips. Social media is a tool that helps people share their ideas and stuff. Great idea. But as time flies by and people got the hang of it, the things being posted on these platforms got a little bit crazy. Alright, look at this. So, I'm on Instagram, and the first thing being played as soon as I open the site, you got this. What the hell? But you may wonder, what drives idiots to do such despicable acts? It's what we call clout chasing, my apprentices. It's the idea of garnering any attention from the general public by any means necessary. Even if it's not for the faint of heart, it doesn't matter to them. Any attention is what they desire. It has become an epidemic. And you thought that the pandemic that happened a few years ago was massive? Clearly, the WHO is still browsing on MySpace. This, I would say, is the biggest culprit to our society's demise. Being a public nuisance and straight up committing criminal activity, things that would assure you would not get laid, passed on as either a challenge or a prank. It seems acting like complete animals are starting to become the norm. I spoke to the Minister of Justice, Apollo Justice, to give us a bit of an insight on the matter. It certainly isn't a shocker for you to see just how often these challenges happen. What do you make up of all this?
The word often is quite an understatement. I would get called every hour about an incident, and it would always be about some dude who has his spine snapped after climbing some milk crates. The amount of dispatch for ambulance has substantially increased.
And certainly crime has been increasing.
Oh, absolutely. The amount of reports for criminal activities has gone through the roof. Crimes like theft, assault, grand theft auto, harassment, sexual harassment, public nuisance, public nudity, tax evasion, unpopular opinion. Oh, they're on the rise.
It must have been tough for you to go through the process of catching all these criminals.
Actually, not really. What I like about today's generation is that awareness isn't in anyone's brain. They would film themselves committing crimes and upload them on social media. I like it.
Social media has certainly changed people's behavior. People starting to eat laundry detergents, chugging bottles of allergy medicine, choking themselves close to death. But the question we always ask is, why? Why is it suddenly we start to do this? Is this some sort of government conspiracy to make it seem that Gen Zs are dumber than boomers?
Well, there's really only one answer to this. Young people are bored. Simple. If there's one thing history has taught us, young folks are in constant search of new things. They get bored of doing the same thing. It's exactly what happened back in the 60s. We went from suits to t-shirts, classical to hard rock music, war to peace, and from clean to drug addicts.
Oh yes, hippies tripping on LSD. But I must admit, they made great bangers back then when taking drugs.
They were tripping balls on that stuff to make that one track about some lonely dude in a band or something. Who the hell's that fat dude?
So, after all that, what can we gather from this? Well, despite the cracks in the community, politicians just don't seem to have a straightforward answer to resolve it. As emerging technologies change the daily lives of the population, we have become increasingly even more incompetent. And as people get bored, they would do anything to get clout, even if someone has to pay the price. So, the question is our society degrading? Yes. Yes, I do think that our society is heading towards a downward spiral. All of these issues weren't prominent about more than 60 years ago. Everything was great. Okay, well, some things, but you get the point. The man's desire for a perfect world only led to destruction. There was never a perfect world. It's just an illusion. An illusion on determining what a perfect world is in the eyes of the individual. And that quest will always have different means on reaching it. And with everyone's ideas clashing between, is always bound to be disastrous. It does sound depressing, but if I were to give a positive twist to this whole ordeal, we can all agree that Tally Hall made some great bangers.